now recognized.
I think they get my point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Hull, thank you for your reports on TransDigm's price gouging. Your recent report identifies astounding levels of excess profits. For example, TransDigm sells a part called a plain enclosed seal that is used on the V-22 Osprey aircraft. You should see a picture of it in the room. According to TransDigm's own data, it costs $125 to make the seal, but they charge DOD more than $1,600, which translates to an excess profit of more than 1,000%. I'd like to show a picture of this part and a chart of TransDigm's excess profits. So you should be able to see that. Ms. Hull, would you characterize DOD paying a contractor over 1,000% profit as government waste? Ms. Hull. Ms. Hull. I'll just move on. Mr. Tenaglia, an analysis released last week by the Project on Government Oversight said, quote, nearly 21 million in excess company profits may not sound like a lot in the context of 768 billion defense budget, but those overcharges add up to a lot of waste and undermine the readiness of our force and weapon systems becoming increasingly costly. Do you agree with that analysis?
Well, I certainly agree with the point that the more we pay unnecessarily, the less capability we can deliver. And so it's the responsibility of our contracting officers to negotiate the best price they can, a price that's fair to industry, and it's fair to the taxpayer and the department. And
TransDigm is a sole source contractor for the V-22 Osprey plane encased seal, which means that the Department of Defense had to buy this part from you or go without it. Isn't that correct?
That is my understanding, and perhaps this is one of the parts that will be a good candidate for reverse engineering.
Mr. Howley, do you think it's fair for taxpayers to pay over $1,600 for a part that costs TransDigm $125 to make?
I think there's a set of regulations that defines how you determine the pricing. And the preferred way to do it is to compare it to the comparable commercial price. And I believe this price is discounted to that. I also believe that when the contract was placed, the government has the right to declare a price fair and reasonable or not fair and reasonable. And that has some other name I don't recall. All these contracts were declared fair and reasonable at the time of placement, and they all have commercially comparable pricing.
Well, that's why we're having this hearing. And in my opinion, taxpayers should not be paying significantly overpaying for parts the military needs to keep the planes flying. Ms. Hull, your audit addressed how the DoD can implement administrative reforms, such as reducing the agency's reliance on sole source manufacturers. Can you elaborate on this?
Thank you. The department proposed a couple of legislative reforms in the last cycle. My understanding and hearing today is that they have some plans for additional legislative cycles or proposals for the current legislative cycle. Now, from a sole source environment, the only other options that the department has is to pursue some of those that Mr. Tenaglia outlined, to include reverse engineering. There's a strategic supplier alliance in which DLA is looking to original equipment manufacturers to potentially cancel their licenses with TransDigm and produce the parts directly for the government. So while there are options there currently in play, a more legislative and regulatory reform would be needed to address the systemic issue.